Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Sarah. I'm really delighted to be here for the second of our web series, our webinar series for nonprofits. Today we're going to talk about WordPress and how that it's much more than just blog software. If you're looking to follow up with any questions or catch me after this presentation, you'll see my Twitter name is there at the bottom, Twitter handle, @LiamDempsey. So let's talk a little bit about who is on the call today. I looked through the attendance list and the registration list, and there's some people from all over, all sorts of different organizations. And because I don't know you all personally and haven't had a chance to look you all up and see what you're all about on your respective websites, just thought I'd take just a minute to explain who I expect is the audience today and who I'm going to be talking to. And really, I'd expect that you're the director of a nonprofit or a charity. Maybe you work for a charity. Either way, you're interested in deepening your understanding of online marketing, and really with a focus on trying to be more effective, trying to get more value out of your online marketing efforts. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. A little bit about me, just so you know who I am. Again, my name is Liam Dempsey. There's my picture on the screen there. I've been doing online marketing for nonprofits and for businesses since 2000. We worked with clients in the US, the UK, and even a little bit of in Central Africa. And we really have built hundreds of websites using WordPress. I'm not sure the exact number, but a lot of websites. So what we're going to cover today is really, where is WordPress in 2015? What's its state, what's going on in the WordPress world, and why that's relevant to you as a director of a nonprofit or an employee at a nonprofit. We're going to make the case for WordPress as a content management system, and really we'll offer some advice on approaching WordPress projects, how you can do that as a non-technical person, as a non-designer, as a non-developer. Because of the very nature of a webinar and the fact that there are so many people on the call, we won't really get into anything about the finer points of WordPress. We won't get into any kind of codes. We won't lose anybody there. We don't have the capacity to talk about design or development best practices. There's just too many different people on the call today, and we certainly won't have the capacity to talk about what's right for your individual charity. Happy to talk about that after the presentation or in follow-up emails and phone calls, but we just won't have time to get to that today. So unless anybody has any questions at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just one note, if you do have questions before we get started, go ahead and feel free to put them into the chat room that's available on the call. Okay, ready? Here we go. So you may recognize this slide from the presentation I gave last month about website strategies for nonprofits. And this is just a little bit of a refresher to talk about how we want to make our own website, our own organization's website, really the hub around which we base our online marketing efforts. And of course, we're going to use social media to help promote our web content and to distribute our web content. And we can use email and newsletters and feedback of other sorts to engage with our target audience and to share our messages. But it's all going to be built around our own website. And as you probably guessed, we're going to be talking about that as WordPress. But why do we want to have our website as our core online marketing tool? And these are some of the reasons here. Is we very much control the look and feel. You might have put some time and energy into tailoring something on Facebook or something on well, in Facebook in particular, really, where you would put time and energy into configuring your page, and then Facebook decided that they weren't going to support that functionality, or they were dropping those elements. And all the time and energy you would put into that was no longer going to be available to you. So with your own website, you determine what it looks like, and the only person who decides it's going to change is you and your organization. Same thing with functionality. If you want a donation page, you add it. If you want to have individual staff bios, you add that. If you don't want it, you don't add it. With your own website, you control access. You can publish whatever you want, whenever you want. You can log in and make edits to your site without having to go out to another agency or to get somebody technically involved to help you. You can scale to your needs. So maybe your nonprofit is just starting out. You just got 501c3 status last month. There's not a lot of donation or public support just yet. So you have a very small website that really just talks about your mission and your aims. But then over time, you're rolling out your project, you're getting some funding in, you've gotten a grant here or there, and the needs of your website grow and change. So you can scale, and WordPress can scale with you. But it's your own website, so you can scale it as you want, and not because Facebook or Twitter or Google or YouTube have added additional functionality. And the last thing really is about content ownership. If your website, you own the content. If you've generated it, you've posted it, you've created it, it's all yours. There's no issue or terms and conditions where they might own the content or that other social media site owns the content. If it's yours and you generated it, you own it, you can post it on your site. And that can be really important depending on what your needs of your organization are. So at LB Design, our tool of choice for making websites is WordPress. We've been using WordPress since 2007. And since about 2011, have begun to use it exclusively for new websites. And let's get into why we do it and what WordPress can do for your organization. So it's really much more than blogging. Common complaint we hear about WordPress is, isn't that blog software? And historically, yeah, you're absolutely right. WordPress started as blog software, but it's gone beyond that. And it's very, very powerful, and it's very scalable. And you can make full websites out of it. And you can do e-commerce websites out of it. You can run any kind of website you want out of it, membership, training, all of it is possible within the WordPress environment. So with that kind of introduction, let's talk about the state of WordPress. And as you can see in this slide here, there's some pretty impressive stats. So almost 8 million, 7.7 million websites run on WordPress. More than half of the top 1 million websites, the most trafficked websites in the world, sites that get the most visitors, more than half of them run on WordPress. Some examples of bigger sites that run on WordPress: CNN, TED, even the Rolling Stones website runs on WordPress. Google doesn't use Blogger for its Google Ventures site. It uses WordPress. And our host today, Tech Impact, their website runs on WordPress as well. WordPress is an open source project, which means that there are no license fees. You're free to do with it what you want, when you want, and how you want. And the software gets better and it gets improved by members of the WordPress community. So people like myself and my colleagues who use WordPress and contribute back to that software and to that code with updates and ideas and expanded functionality. There is actually a nonprofit foundation called the WordPress Foundation that is the curator, if you want, that's my word, not theirs, of the software. And they work to make sure that the software gets better and stays true to its open source licensing. And then lastly, there's a very profitable company called Automatic, which is a WordPress website hosting company started by the developer who started WordPress. And Automatic, along with another other very successful companies, have a real committed stake to WordPress as an open source platform. So because they have skin in the game, if you will, as do a number of other companies and individuals in the WordPress community, there's not a lot of chance that the open source nature of WordPress is going to allow it to kind of die on the vine, as it were. The software does continue to get better. It does continue to expand its functionality, get even easier to use, become more powerful, because there is this committed community around it. So just briefly, because I get this question a lot, I thought I would address it in just a quick slide here. Is what is the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org? In the last slide, you heard me mention a company called Automatic. Again, that's a company founded by a guy by the name of Matt Mullenweg, who is the founder of WordPress. And Automatic runs WordPress.com, and that is a managed WordPress hosting environment. So you can set up a free WordPress-driven website at WordPress.com. And for free, you can get yourcharity.wordpress.com. But if you wanted to make it yourcharity.com or yourcharity.org, you'd have to pay some money. If you wanted some expanded functionality, you'd have to pay a little bit of more money. And if you wanted other aspects of it, you would pay on a kind of a pay-as-you-go basis. So it's managed WordPress hosting by a company called Automatic. WordPress.org is where the website software is available for free. There's also information about how to use it in its support documents. There's free plugins that you can download and install on your website at WordPress.org. So the .org side is really where companies and individuals like me who make WordPress websites would go and get the software and keep up to date with its latest news and get plugins. Everybody with me there? Does that make sense? Okay, great. So let's move on. So this is really the meat of what we're going to get into today, and it is why WordPress? Why should we use it? And we've touched on some of these already when we were talking about why we want to make our own website the hub of our online marketing strategy. But frankly, WordPress is scalable. So whether or not you've got a 3-page brochure and you're a brand new nonprofit, or you're an organization as big as the Red Cross, you can run the same content management system. So as your site needs change, as your organization grows, you can stay with the same software and make savings and efficiencies there. It's scalable. So if you don't have a capacity to take online donations right away, and then you want that and you're starting to have a need for that, well, you can add that to your same WordPress site without having to start from scratch, without having to dump tons of money into the system. Yes, of course, it's going to cost a little bit if you can't do the work yourself, but it's not like you have to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. For the non-technically inclined, WordPress is one of the easiest content management systems to use. I like to tell clients when we're training them on their websites, if you can write a letter in Microsoft Word, you can add content to a WordPress site. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar. The use of icons for bold and italics and how to add pictures is quite similar. So it's very intuitive and it's easy to use. We've never trained any of our clients twice on how to use their website. Once they've been trained once, they know how to use it. They keep moving forward with it. Another point is that there are thousands of WordPress plugins available, oftentimes for free. A plugin is a software add-on that expands the functionality of your core WordPress install. So out of the box, WordPress has a very simple, very basic contact form. But with a plugin, you can have a very expansive, very scalable form, maybe that you want to spread the form onto several pages because it's a very lengthy application form. Maybe you want to ask people to upload pictures or a resume. There are forms, plugins that can do that. Maybe you want to have photo galleries. Again, WordPress does that out of the box, but there are, dare I say, better options that come through plugins. And there's all sorts of functionality that you might want to incorporate into your site, and plugins are a great way to do that. A great many are free. Some do cost money, but even the ones that cost money are typically less than $200 a year. And when you're buying that software for $200 a year, you're really getting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of development for a couple $100. So it's a very cost-effective solution. This last point is a really important selling point, especially for a smaller organization that may not have the capacity in-house to run any kind of technical maintenance or updates to their website, is that because WordPress is so popular, because so many organizations are using it, there's an entire business community around it of people who know it and know how to use it, know how to make things and fix things with it. So as an organization, you're not stuck with your cousin's nephew's next door neighbor who made that site for you. You can get very good, very professional quality help at a reasonable price. And if you're not happy with the supplier who's attending to your website today, there are a load of other people in organization that can give you a better service at a reasonable price. So you're really not beholden to anyone. As an organization, you're very much in the driver's seat of making sure you're getting good value for money out of your web support team. So what can WordPress do? I'm going to grab a quick sip of water before I get into that. Let's start with the important stuff first. It can collect donations. We talked about a plugin form, and it's great for collecting donations. And you can use it to recruit staff. You can accept application. If you have multiple staff or you want to have the bios of your board members, those can be on your website. If you want to have multiple site administrators, so you have some of your junior team members adding content or blog posts, and then the more senior team members at your organization can approve and publish those. You can have blog posts, and whether that's news or updates or project updates, whatever the case may be, you can post those on your site. You can add videos, you can add podcasts. You can do it all from your phone as well. And certainly you can coordinate social networks and online communities with WordPress. There are some plugins, BB Press and Buddy Press, where you can turn a WordPress website effectively into a private social network, maybe like a Facebook. It doesn't necessarily look like Facebook, but it has a lot of the same functionality of groups and activity walls and private messaging. Something that we get asked about a lot at LB Design is WordPress search engine friendly? SEO is search engine optimization. And the simple answer is yes, absolutely. WordPress is hugely SEO friendly. Right out of the box, it creates customizable permalinks, which can be configured to be very search engine friendly. The slugs are editable themselves, so slugs aren't the little slimy worms that crawl along the ground. They are the extension of the web address. So you might be charity.com, and then the slug might be /blog /our latest programs. So that could be editable. So if you wanted to talk about a particular program, you wanted a particular keyword in there, you could use WordPress in its default installation to edit that and make it search engine friendly. There are a number of very powerful, very valuable search engine optimization content strategy plugins. The one that we use at LB Design is called Yoast, is how I pronounce it. I think that's how you'd say it. Maybe the original producer wouldn't. He's a Dutch fellow, but it's Toast with a Y. And we use it on almost all of our websites. It's very, very valuable. And you can even make the homepage sliders that many organizations are fond of search engine friendly with real text, with alt tags in your image. All of this is possible within a WordPress environment. So let's go through some of the different aspects of a WordPress website and what's involved in it. And one of the things that comes up almost right away are WordPress themes. And what are themes? And themes are basically a mixture of design and functionality. And the example that I like to use is that of a suit or a dress. And when you go into the shop and you're looking to buy a dress, either for yourself or for somebody else, you have to pick generally the kind of dress. Is it a go-to-work dress? Is it a evening gown? Is it a summer dress? And there's kind of different purposes and functionalities behind the dress. And then we can also talk about the design of it. Is it flowery? Is it single color? Is it striped? Is it made of cotton? Is it made of silk? Is it made of wool? Is it made of some other material? Does it have pockets? Does it have buttons? Is it sleeveless? Does it have a collar that goes up close to the neck, or does it cut down in a V shape? These kinds of things where it mixes the design with the functionality. And invariably, just like with dresses, it's going to be a little bit of both, right? You're not going to get an evening dress meant for gardening because the design and the functionality don't join up. Same thing with themes. You should get a theme whose design matches up with your functionality. And with functionality in a WordPress environment, that can be, does it have built-in capacity to have staff bios, or does it have built-in capacity to have randomly loading testimonials? Or can I have a little highlight box on the right column? Or can I have a map automatically embedded onto the contact page? Those sorts of different types of functionality. So generally speaking, there are three types of themes. There's free. Many of those are available at WordPress.org. So remember, that's where the free software is available. There's what's called premium themes, and that's where you buy them from a theme shop. And those can cost anywhere from $40 to several $100, depending on, again, design and functionality. And then there's what's called starter or custom themes. And starter themes are, going back to that dress analogy, if you think about going into a tailor's shop where they might have a paper diagram of a dress, and then they cut out the rough shape so that when a customer comes in, they can say, yes, I want that particular cut of dress that you've already cut in that material, but now let's fine tune it. Let's put the hem here. Let's put some buttons there. Let's cut the collar this way. Let's put a zipper on the back rather than buttons or whatever other clasping mechanism might have been. So it's a place to start. So it kind of brings some of the elements of design and functionality there, but it's not really ready to go online and be a full website. You need to fine tune it and tailor it. And then the other part of starter is custom themes, and that's what we build at Alba Design, where it's really customized exactly around the needs and design of a particular organization. So very much like a custom suit or a custom dress might be, where in the clothing analogy, the tailor will take measurements and make sure that it really matches the person. With a custom theme, it's built around the specific needs, goals, and wishes of the individual organization. So if we're thinking about themes, you said the first kind was free, and there are, geez, I don't even know how many. I would say at least thousands of free themes available on WordPress.org and elsewhere. But WordPress.org is the best place to start to look for them. But just like all dresses and all suits are not made equally, some are better, some are worse, some have finer craftsmanship, some have lesser craftsmanship, some might be very inexpensive and reflect that in a cheap sort of way. Others might be very, very well made. It's the same with themes. So just because a theme looks good when you see it in a preview or you see a screenshot of it doesn't mean that it's going to be as flexible or as robust as you need it to be. Just because it looks good on the front end doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for a content manager to log into the WordPress site and create content and move content around. And frankly, some themes are not well made at all and can be coded or written in a technical way in ways that aren't very helpful and are in fact downright scary. So be very wary when you're looking to buy or to use a free theme. Generally speaking, you're fine if you get a theme off of WordPress.org. They have an entire team that vets those themes, but there are other avenues for free themes and there are other avenues for paid themes that should be approached very much with a caveat emptor perspective. At the bottom there, I've left mentioned a couple of different theme houses that are very, very reliable. Anything you get from them will be well made, solid, safe, and secure. iThemes and Woo Themes. There are certainly others, but those are some of the better known theme shops. So what are plugins? What are WordPress plugins? We talked about them a little bit, and you may recall that they are software add-ons that offer expanded functionality outside of what WordPress does right out of the box. And as we can see in the list here, these are just some of the things that some of the needs that plugins can address. Search engine optimization and blogging. Maybe user permissions where we customize it to meet your needs as to who can publish what. Around events, maybe you want an events calendar plugin. You have a lot of social aspects to your organization and you're out in your community a lot and you want to let people know about the events. An events plugin could be great. Maybe you got digital downloads, whether you're sharing white papers or you're sharing sound files or podcasts and you want to manage and track that. Digital download plugins are great for that. Maybe you have a membership subscription, whether it's part of training or it's logging controlled content where you want people to see it. Membership subscription plugins can do a great job of helping you manage that. Just as we talked about not all themes being created equally, the same is true with plugins. And as we see in this slide here, there's a number of different things to keep in mind. Is a plugin can absolutely do what it's supposed to do in terms of a technical functionality standpoint, but it still can be difficult to use where you log in to your WordPress site and you go to the plugin settings page and it's not well presented or it's not well organized or it's not intuitive. And so you don't know how to use it, or it takes a bit of time to get trained on that, or you have to have somebody show you how to do that. So that's something to think about when you're adding plugins and trying to figure out which plugin to choose. Is how easy is it for the content manager, the website manager to use? Because all WordPress sites are database driven, they're making calls. Plugins oftentimes will make a call to the database. So it'll, in a technical sense, it'll ask the database to send it some content. And just like walking down the hallway to collect something from your colleague in a different office can be done efficiently or inefficiently. If we go down and ask for the 4 or 5 things we need for the day and then go back, we make one trip. But we could also go back every 10 minutes and get on 5 separate trips to get what we need, and that's less efficient. So databases and plugins can have that same kind of issue. So we need to be aware of how efficient our plugins are so we don't slow our website down. Of course, if they're not coded well, they may open our website up to security issues. We don't have a lot of time to go into that specifically, but be aware of these concerns when you're talking to your design team or your development team about what plugin solutions are right for you. And the next point is really around overlapping functionality. Many plugins will perform a whole number of functions, and you might already have another plugin installed on your website that does one of the same things. And sometimes what can happen is, based on the way the code of those 2 plugins works, is they don't play nuts nicely with each other. They butt heads, they overwrite each other. One tries to do it and the other one tries to do it first, and in the end maybe nothing happens or doesn't happen in the way that you'd expect it to do. But just be aware of that, and again, talk to these kinds of things with your design or your developer. Don't always think plugin first. As I said, there are thousands of WordPress plugins, and oftentimes the plugins do a plugin may do something very, very simple that can be useful, but it's the kind of thing that a developer might be able to address in your theme, and then you wouldn't have to deal with a plugin. You wouldn't have to add any more software. So it could be the kind of thing that a theme developer or your technical team could make some edits to the code of your WordPress theme, and then you wouldn't need the plugin. So think about that and talk those things through with your design and development team. That said, there are loads of really good plugins, and certainly on our LB design sites and the sites that we make for our clients, that we use all sorts of different plugins. But we want to make sure that we're using plugins that we need and not just because it was easier and faster. There's been a question that's come in, so I'll address that about backups. And the simple answer is backups are hugely important. anything that's online can be hacked. We've certainly seen that with big companies, whether it's Target or some of the other organizations. Even the FBI have been hacked. So certainly our organization is susceptible to that. We want to make sure that we take regular backups. So if we do get hacked, we can roll back to a safe version of our website, both the database and the code and the images and any other content, and in a cost-effective way, get our site back safe and clean. So what are some recommended plugins? And I won't slow down too much because this slide is here and it'll be available online after the presentation. But you can see the different companies here. We talked about the SEO by Yoast. We have Gravity Forms for all sorts of different form needs. Slider is that homepage slideshow. We use a slider called Soliloquy. Digital downloads, donation forms, again, we've mentioned it twice. You can handle it through Gravity Forms. I should mention there are other solutions. These are just ones that here at LB Design we like to use. There's certainly other solutions that are well worthwhile, but these are our preferred choices. If you do podcasting, that's actually pronounced Blueberry. Go figure. Memberships, again, Paid Membership Pro is a WordPress plugin that we've used with some success and like. And customization, we use something called Advanced Custom Fields. And what that helps us do is if we've created a page for staff bios and we want to have a field where the website content manager can not only enter the name of the staff member, can enter their job title, maybe their email address, their phone number, and if we have different offices, what office they work out of, maybe a bio, a short bio about that person, maybe where they want to school, or maybe the programs that they oversee within our organization. All of that we can set that all up with custom fields, so content manager just has to type that in or copy and paste it in. And LB Design, we do that with Advanced Custom Fields. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about custom post types. And really a better way to think about a custom post type is to think of it as a custom content type. WordPress treats content in a number of different content types. The two most well-known and most talked about are pages and posts. But we can make a custom post type really based on any of our needs. And if we see on the slide here, we might have one for staff, for events, for programs. If we manage low-cost housing, maybe we want to have a custom post type for the different facilities that we manage. And so then we can decide what that post type is: staff, events, programs, housing, and also which fields we want to have associated with that post type. We talked about the staff. For events, we might have date, time, location, email for RSVP, etc. And then anything that we put into the database using those fields, we can then display across the site wherever we want. So if we have events, and then we have an event section and people can search through that and look for all the different things that might be coming up in the next month. But maybe on our home page, we want to have a highlight of the next upcoming date event. And we just want to have the name of the event, the date, the location, and we add a big register button. So we just take some of the fields from that custom post type and move that to the home page because all the data is in, but we just pull out what we need for that. Does that make sense? Did I go through that too quickly? Everybody with me there? Okay, great. So we've addressed some of this in the previous slide, but one of the real benefits of custom post types is it allows content managers to just focus on content. If there are a series of fields within, say, an events custom post type, then the events manager just has to make sure that the content manager just has to make sure that those fields are completed. And the website will automatically style all the fields. So the title of the event will be a certain height and width and look and feel, and the date will be formatted consistently between all the events, and the write-up about it for each one will be the same, and the image that's associated will be the same size. So we have the visual consistency to our presentation because we're using custom post types to make sure that all the data is entered and pulled onto the front end of the website in a structured, meaningful way. Again, WordPress is very search engine friendly, and custom post types can augment that by allowing us to have various fields that we know people are going to want to search about. And this last point about allowing a richer user experience is really about making sure that the design time and energy that we put into the site to make it look right when we launched is maintained over time, because the custom post types with the custom fields are automatically presented consistently over time through the website. So as the maxim goes, good design should disappear into the background, let the content come out. That's exactly what custom post types will enable us to do week in, week out, month in, month out. So we had a question previously a little bit about backups. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that now. WordPress security. We absolutely have to think safety first. My slider heading is custom post types, but it really should be WordPress security. Sorry about that. If it's online, somebody can hack it. And they're not necessarily hacking it because they disagree with your organization or what your position is, but they hack because it's available and because it's there. WordPress is inherently safe, but because it's such a popular target, because it's such a popular software, it's a very popular target. You know, if you're going to hack one website, you might as well hack a million. Very similar to computer viruses that get emailed around. By and large, the bulk of those are meant for Microsoft or PC computers, because Microsoft software for computers is the most popular around. So if you're going to hack a computer, you might as well hack a million. So we have to think safety first, and the first step of that is backing up, back up, back up. We've got to take regular backups, and that can be very easily done. Our web hosts can do it, depending on the service. We can use third-party plugins like Backup Buddy that will do it automatically for us on a regular schedule. So we just want to make sure that if we don't configure that ourselves and our web host isn't doing it, that we have a design or development team that takes care of it for us. WordPress is very, very secure. Oftentimes you'll hear otherwise that sites get hacked. It's not because they're running WordPress, it's because their version of WordPress is up to date. So any software will develop security risks and flaws from time to time. And the community is very, very good about responding to and filling those gaps, fixing those security flaws in a very, very timely fashion. In fact, they're now doing it almost automatically, depending on what your configuration settings are. So it is very secure, but you do need to keep it up to date. You do need to spend the time to make sure that your software is kept up to date, and your plugins are as well. Unlike our computer software, which automatically updates itself, website software does not. So we need to keep an eye on that, either directly ourselves, our content management team needs to, or we need to make sure that our design and development team take care of it. This last point about hosting is really, it's kind of an insurance point, is that you pay for good hosting, or you pay to get your site fixed when it gets hacked. And what I mean by that is if you're on lower inexpensive hosting, there's a number of different websites sitting on the same computer server, on the same web server. And your own immediate website could be very secure, very up to date. But the website that's another website sitting on that same server can get hacked because they don't keep up to date. They let their software go out of date. There's a security patch that's released and they don't install it. Once that virus gets onto that web server, it's much easier for the hackers to go effectively through the back door and hack your site, even though your site was secure, because you're on the same computer. So if you pay more for hosting up front, Typically what that means is you get a more robust environment, you get a more secure web server, and the companies that charge more tend to do more to keep it safe. So that's what my point is really, is pay more upfront so you pay less in the long run. Is everybody with that? Does it make sense? Any questions about security? Okay, great. So we're keeping on target. We didn't want to go too long on this particular webinar because I wanted to leave some time for questions. There's a bigger audience on the call today, so hopefully we'll get a few of them coming through. Okay, so what are some of the takeaways from what I hope you got out of this webinar? Is going back to that initial slide where we saw the clouds and the social media outlets there, where our own website is the hub of our online marketing tool. And that really is kind of core to this whole webinar series, is using your website as the fundamental tool from which all your online marketing flows. Hopefully, through the slides that we've covered today and the talking points, you've come to see that WordPress really is a top content management system. Whether you're a very small organization or you're a bigger charity with more robust needs, WordPress is going to be a very, very effective tool for getting your website online, keeping it there, and making it very easy to manage content. You can use plugins and custom post types to really expand your site functionality well beyond the simple brochure style, and to make it very interactive and very valuable to your organization. And the last point, again, just reminding us all to spend the time and energy to make sure that we keep our website very safe and very secure by using good web hosting, by keeping our version of WordPress up to date, by keeping our plugins up to date, as well as we're going to talk about WordPress security later in the series. I think that comes up in July. But that we want to spend the time and energy so that, again, we pay up front or we pay a lot more later. Okay, so at this point, we're just about 45 minutes into the presentation. I'm going to stop here for questions. And again, you can use the chat box to flag those up, and we'll just keep an eye on that and see if any questions come in. So I see a question here about switching WordPress themes and about mobile themes. So can you switch from one theme to another, I guess for want of a better phrase, willy-nilly? And the simple answer is possibly. If we go back to the analogy of a dress or a suit, there's different functionality. So if you have, for example, a suit that has 6 pockets inside and outside, a combined total of 6, and you have something in every one of those 6 pockets, if you then try to put on a suit that only has 4 pockets, you're not going to be able to bring everything over to your new suit. So what that might mean in a WordPress environment is if you have a custom post type for staff bios on your existing theme, and you want to switch to this new theme that doesn't have a custom post type for staff, those staff bios will still sit in your database. They'll still be in your WordPress website, but your theme won't have any way to get that content from the database into the browser so that people visiting your site can see it. So depending on how complex your existing theme is, you may or may not be able to switch to another theme just by clicking within the admin, the WordPress admin. You might need to get a designer or developer involved to make that transition. As far as mobile themes, yeah, that's a really good question, and it's about Certainly we've had the Google announcement that websites need to be mobile friendly or they will begin to get hit for SEO. Not all themes are mobile friendly or responsive. Some are, some aren't. And there are different ways to adjust that. There are sometimes some plugins that can kind of mock up or force a mobile solution of your non-mobile friendly website. Those aren't really great. It's typically better to spend the time and energy to make your existing theme responsive, or if that's not going to be cost effective, maybe because your theme is too old, is to go with a theme that is responsive right out of the box. So I think we have one more question before we start to run out of time here. And asking about trying to figure out the right way to know what kind of theme is right for my organization. And along that, how do I know that the person I'm talking with about it really knows what they're talking about, knows the needs of my organization? And that's a good question, a good couple of questions. And what theme you use, and let's just go with custom themes because that's what my company does, and that's what I know the best, really, is it all comes back to what are we trying to achieve with our website? What are we trying to get it to do? What do we want? What are the outcomes that we want to have with it? Who are we trying to reach as an audience? What are we trying to get that audience to do? And where is that audience currently, and how do we need to position our website so as to engage with them? So to try to get the best theme for your organization, it's really making sure that the designer or the development team that you've brought on board to do the work has the capacity to understand your charity, but can then bring their own experience and professional expertise around making websites, designing websites that marry, if you will, or match up the key messaging, the branding of the organization with the target audience and the desired functionality. So, just like when you're going to hire somebody to put a deck on your house or to refurbish your offices, you're going to talk to them about what kind of work they've done in the past, and can you see pictures of their previous work, and do they have some references? It's very much the same sort of thing with design and development. It's looking at examples of their previous builds, asking them to talk through their process, asking them to talk about WordPress and WordPress builds in a way that is relatively jargon-free, so that, if they can explain it without jargon, you can most likely bet that they know what they're talking about, and that they have enough experience with your kind of organization that they're going to be able to deliver based on your needs and your wishes. Did that help? Did that answer your question for you? Excellent, excellent. Well, with that, I'm going to have to wrap it up here. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. So, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned previously that I will put these up on SlideShare at slideshare.net/Liam Dempsey. I'll get those up there in the next 10 or 15 minutes. You see my contact details on the screen here. I'm at Liam Dempsey. My company's at LB Design. And if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call or reach out to me on social media, and we'll follow up from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.